Hello and welcome to The Professionals. In October, the London accountants BKL achieved B Corp status. It is believed to be the largest accountancy firm to achieve the high standards needed to qualify as a B Corp. I am thrilled today to be joined by Myfanwy Neville, a partner leading the firm's ESG consulting practice, and Marketing and Business Development Director Simon Bussell, who have agreed to share with us their firm's B Corp journey. So Simon, Miv, welcome to The Professionals. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
The first question I thought I'd like to ask is, and to you, Miv, is why has BKL chosen to go down this B Corp route now? What were the triggers for that decision?
So that's a brilliant question. I'd say that our journey started probably about 4 or 5 years ago when we decided to launch an inclusion and diversity campaign within the practice and across the practice, because we realised that there are very few women at partner level within our firm and across the industry as a whole. And as that progressed and we went through this recognition that we see ourselves as stewards of the business for the future, we thought, well, actually, there's more to it than this, isn't there? There's the environment, there's social, there's governance, there's all the stuff. And we thought, well, how about we look around for a measure to see how good we really are at this stuff and what else we need to do. And that's where B Corp came along, because we realised that what you get from B Corp just by entering the process is a list of things that you do well and a list of things to do differently. And that's where the B Corp idea came from, really.
Yeah, and I think we've done a lot of work already on that. And certainly when we were going through the B Corp process, it gave us a very good structure in which to be able to look at, monitor and address the work that we were doing on our business, both up until the point we became certified, but also in going forward as well.
As I understand it, firms have to make quite a few changes to the way they operate and the way they structure themselves when looking for B Corp status. I mean, what kind of changes at a practical level has the firm had to make to achieve B Corp status?
Simon, do you want to go?
Well, yeah, I'll pick up on that one. So I took the business through the B Corp process, and I guess one of the biggest changes that we had to make was that we had to update our LLP agreement. So we had to get that written. So it's a statement that's given to us by B Lab, and they sent that to us, and we, the partners, had to then vote on that and include that into the LLP agreement. But in terms of the other changes that we had to make within the business, as Muv's already alluded to, we were doing a lot of that work already. So we were quite fortunate in that we managed to get certified in the first pass. They didn't ask us to go back and change anything or update anything. They were satisfied that the work we'd already done was good enough to get certified. So that was quite we were quite pleased about that.
Mm. In terms of boots on the ground, practical things we also had to do was around educating and talking to the partners about what this means. Because obviously, if we're going to say to the partners, hey, let's change the partnership agreement, my goodness, that's a big thing to ask. So, what is B Corp? Why does it matter? Having those sorts of conversations. Because a lot of the guys are very forward thinking in lots of ways, but also, we're quite an old school bunch in some ways too. We're accountants at the end of the day. And just having the conversations about why this matters, what this means, that was a long-term practical conversation that we had with the partnership that was really important in getting a lot of these changes through.
Did they? How did they respond to these kinds of conversations? Was it something they embraced with open arms, or was there a degree of skepticism from some of your colleagues?
Oh my goodness. So do you know what? The guys here are brilliant. They're always happy to listen to the crazy ideas that we come up with as a management team. So, and to be fair, the inclusion and diversity was quite a big eye opener for a lot of the guys, because they were like, well, we don't see people any differently. And it's like, but people might behave differently even if you don't realize it. And that was a bit of a almost like a paradigm shift for the chaps to realize there's more to business perhaps than what they had fully realized. So I guess when the B Corp conversation came up, it was a bit of an extension of that, really, just to say, well, sustainability is coming, and we need to be ahead of the game. We need to be getting good people into the door, and the Gen Z conversation is all around, what are you doing, what's your purpose, what are you doing about sustainability. So there was a very much creating a sustainable business argument that went alongside the doing good side of things, that helped to create a more grounded conversation, I'd say.
Yeah, and we've had lots of training on different issues, particularly around people, and not only that, but we've tackled different people in different ways. So we have forwarded TED Talks, for example, to various people to try and educate them and get them to understand the benefits of diversity and inclusion, and how you treat your people within a business, and the balance between profit and purpose as well.
It's quite interesting. I think the whole sort of the growth story of a firm once it achieves B Corp status becomes quite interesting, because you're approaching the way you go to market in a very different way to other accountancy firms. And being a B Corp, what's that going to mean in the way you go to market, and what sort of impact is that likely to have on growth of the firm? Maybe Simon, maybe you pick up on that one.
Sure. Yeah, well, it's certainly already impacted us in numerous ways. We, by becoming a B Corp, it's like we joined a community. So everyone that we've spoken to or have asked to speak to have been very welcoming. We've been invited on proposals already because we're a B Corp, and that's been seen as a very positive thing. And in the future, we'll be looking at our relationship with our suppliers. And making sure that the work that we're doing is threading through our whole supply chain. So just making sure that the businesses that we're working with, even our clients, in fact, are edging towards being a better business, and making continuous improvements all the time. And in terms of how it's going to impact us for our people, Muv's already just mentioned the interview process and people coming on board and wanting to understand our vision and our values and all the rest of it. That's really important. When I've interviewed, and I've done so in the last 6 months or so, every person I've interviewed has been asking about our vision and our values. So having B Corp as a certified mark means that we've got a narrative, we've got a story to be able to tell them, and a kind of recognition of the work that we've been doing.
It's quite interesting. I was going to pick up on that as well, Miv, is that recruitment in the accountancy sector and across all the professions actually is really tough at the moment.
It is.
And presumably this gives you an edge over those many other accountancy firms that are nowhere near their point on this journey in the same way you guys are.
That's right. I think it gives us, it sort of almost shows that we put our money where our mouth is. Anybody can talk about purpose, anybody can talk about inclusion, diversity, all that kind of stuff. But when we say, well, we've actually been accredited and someone's checked our answers, and here, look, we're proving that we want to be a good business, we want to be a better business and do good in the world, it adds something, doesn't it? And so many people now are asking those sorts of questions and asking, where are you? What are you doing? Want to be involved in a business that's doing something positive for the world, actually, and how are you helping rather than contributing to the problem? And it gives us a neat way of being able to explain what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yeah, of course, achieving B Corp is an incredible achievement in its own right, but you have to keep it, and there is an audit process. I can't remember if it's not every year, is it, or
every 3 years?
Or maybe. How does a firm like yours? How do you maintain the standards that are needed to sort of live by the B Corp ethos? I mean, does it mean, for example, turning work away if it doesn't sort of meet the standards that you hold yourselves?
Well, I think it certainly gives us a framework with which to use when we are looking at the type of clients that we, or potential clients that we get, the industries that they work in. There's certainly some industries that B Lab really don't want you to go anywhere near, and you'd have to have a very good reason for working with them. So it will help us determine and give us a framework for being able to work with new clients, to be able to look at our existing suppliers and any new supplier relationships that we'll have. And that could go from, it could be software companies or where we host our website to the cleaning company that we use, for example, and what cleaning products that they have, how they treat their staff, what policies they have to help train and develop their staff. And so I think having that structure and framework in place is going to be really important for us to be able to make those improvements. And we're also looking at how we can potentially use the United Nations SDGs to be able to bring into what we're doing within a business as well.
So it's something that we're going to align our strategy alongside. So one of the thoughts that we've had is that any business decision that we have, we would look at what the B Lab would think of that alongside it and use that as a way to help us determine, is this a good way for us to move forward or not? What does this mean for us? Is it more important for us to do this strategically and to lose 1 point here, but we would gain something else elsewhere in the B Lab statistics? But it's certainly something that's strategically very important for us to maintain now.
There are quite a few other accountancy firms that I'm aware of that are on their own B Corp journey, and some are taking quite a long time to get there. Others have made it very, very quickly. What advice would you offer to other accountancy firms and other professional services firms that are looking at this? Is it something worth investing in and moving towards?
So let me tell you what happened on the very first day that we announced our B Corp membership to the world through a press release, and we had a partners meeting the same day. And like some of the partners, you've got camps of people. Some people are slightly more skeptical, some people are slightly more on board than others. And we walked in, and the first thing that one of the potential skeptics said was, "Good grief, what a brilliant idea that was. A client phoned me already and included me in an audit tender, and they wouldn't have included me otherwise." And somebody else said, "Yes, I've had 4 phone calls today." So it's remarkable the good business that it creates just by including you in a different conversation. So I think the first thing to be aware of is that it opens more doors than it closes, and that's a useful thing. I think Simon and I had a conversation with the head of sustainability at the Institute of Chartered Accountants day before,
yeah.
One of these days this week. And what we really believe in is that accountants hold the key to talking to a lot of businesses, especially in the SME sector, who don't have to report on this stuff yet. So we have such an important position to take in leading this conversation, and we have to go first, and we have to understand it for ourselves so we can talk to clients about it. So again, we have a position of responsibility here as well, I'd say, to lead the charge. And to start having conversations with clients. I know that whenever I've started a tentative chat with a client, kind of gone, "What are you guys doing about sustainability then?" And they give me like a bit of a blah, blah, blah answer. And I'm like, "Oh, hang on, but what about this opportunity? Or have you thought about it from this perspective?" And suddenly the whole conversation shifts because you're having a slightly more robust conversation around something that they maybe don't understand about, but they're bluffing around a little bit, but we can help them with it gently, So there are huge amounts of opportunities here, and it's about not worrying about what we don't know, but getting involved in the things that we can, and the conversation will move forwards, I'd say.
Yeah, and I was at on a separate note with the ICAW. I was at one of their seminars, and it was to do with ESG in deals and investment. Now, I think there are probably 2 key ways in which all of this is going to happen. One is from the very, very top, from the big corporates that are mandated to report on their ESG practices, and that will flood through the supply chain. So if you want to do any work with any of them, you're going to have to be on board with all of this. And then the other is where the money is. If you're a private equity business, and this was generally the sense at that particular seminar, was that the value that you place on a business with good ESG practices is usually higher than those without good ESG practices. So it makes commercial sense for that to happen. So if it proves, I guess, you can be a good business and balance profit with purpose. which is hugely important. So and so once that starts happening on a greater scale, then I think businesses, owner manager businesses and SMEs will probably pay a bit more attention than they are at the moment.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think they will turn to their accountants rather than, say, their lawyers for advice on this kind of transition. I think it's a fantastic way of showing leadership and direction, and giving yourself a clear differentiator in what is quite a crowded market. And I think it's something to be absolutely celebrated. Simon, Miv, thank you ever so much for joining the professionals and sharing very briefly your journey to B Corp, and maybe we'll come back in a year or two's time to find out how it went.
Awesome, we'd love to.
Thanks very
Thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Cheers, Matt.